Welcome to Fireside Gaming. I'm Billum, and we're continuing my virtual skating career this time around with a dive into Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 for the PlayStation. This is my first time experience in the second game in the Tony Hawk series. Back in the day, I played the first one on N64, and then the third one on Game Boy Color, and then I didn't come back to the series until the first Underground game on PS2. That means my experience with the series is a bit spotty, and I'm looking to remedy that with these playthroughs. I also can't deny being interested in seeing how much the series evolves between the first one and Thug. I'm kind of excluding 3 on the GBC since it's a vastly different experience. And the first thing I noticed this time around was just how much smoother the gameplay is. Don't get me wrong, I still enjoy the first Tony Hawk game, but it's going to be hard to go back to it again after playing 2. The biggest change this time around is the introduction of manuals. This makes it incredibly easy for players to chain moves together for massive scores. I seriously had so much fun this time around completing high score goals because of this. It made me really think about levels and how I wanted to plan out my runs and tricks. That's completely different than in 1 where players can just hit up a half pipe and do back-to-back tricks to get a high score. To go with that, the controls are just so dang tight that it's impressive. Once players understand the full mechanics of the game, it's not hard to get it to do what you want. There might be an occasional hiccup here or there, but that's incredibly rare, with the skating truly feeling as smooth as I could expect it to be, especially for a PS1 game. And another major change this time around are stats. Rather than start out the best, players actually have to increase their skills to get better at grinding, spins, and other abilities. They can do so with money earned from completing goals in every level. Those funds are also used to buy more tricks that can be assigned to different button combinations, as well as purchasing new decks to skate with. Adding to that, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 offers a character creator. That's not something I was expecting so early in the series, but it's a welcome addition. I went through the whole career mode with my custom skater and enjoyed the experience of learning more tricks, increasing stats, and unlocking new gear. I will admit that I didn't go all out and 100% complete my career. There were several level goals that I didn't bother with while playing for this review. I'll no doubt go back and complete those again in my spare time, but 100%ing a game is never my natural instinct. But that does mean I didn't unlock Spider-Man as a secret skater, which is one of the only things I knew about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 as a kid. I remember seeing it in just about every game magazine mentioning the game, as well as having friends that talked up how cool it was to play as the Webhead. On the subject of levels, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 offers 8 that players will experience through the main game. Each of these have their own unique feel to them and stand out from one another. I also love that the hangar from the first game is here, but expanded with more areas to explore and unlock. Also, School 2 is such a great level, and easily my favorite from this game, and maybe even one of my favorites in the series. Just like in the first game, 3 of these levels are skate competitions where players compete for medals. There's also 2 additional levels that are unlocked by completing certain tasks. I didn't go the extra length to get these, but it's a nice option there for hardcore players of the Tony Hawk series. And if players are looking for a little more, there's free skate and multiplayer options for all the levels, as well as a level editor that lets players make their own skate parks. These aren't features I spent much time with personally, but I definitely see their inclusions as a plus. I do have to list some problems with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, as the game isn't perfect. For example, the character creation is incredibly limited in options, so much so that players only have the ability to create male characters. And those options that are available for male characters are definitely lacking. In that same vein, there's no getting around how rough the old Tony Hawk games look. Part of that has to do with modern TVs just not working the best with older games, but there are some that have aged better than others. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 isn't one of them, but I'm also not a graphics snob, so it's not a big deal to me. I'll also quickly mention that it sucks wall plans weren't implemented just yet. They're a huge part of how I built combos in Thug, and I really hoped they would be in this game. Finally, I'm not the biggest fan of the soundtrack this time around. There's plenty of punk rock to go around, but the ska from the first game was subbed out for hip hop. Personally, I would rather have the ska back, but I get that that's just my preference. Keep in mind that I'm not going to subtract any points from the score, since this is a matter of taste. Overall, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 is an incredibly good game. It does an excellent job at building on the gameplay in the first game, while also adding loads of new features. The levels are also some of the most enjoyable from the games in the series that I've played. while it does have some disadvantages when compared to later releases, it's still fun to go back and play today, especially since you can find it for only about $10 right now. I've already got a review of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 up if you want to go and check that out as well, and I'll also continue to review these other games in the series from time to time, but I can't say when the next one will be. Thanks for stopping by for my review of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, and as always, take it easy.